Okay, so today we are doing multiplying fractions, my favorite. The first thing I want to ask you guys to think about is, what is multiplication? Before we even think about fractions and bringing fractions into the picture, but even with whole numbers, like, what are we doing when we multiply fractions? So take just a few seconds to think about that. Now that you've had some time to think about what multiplication is, let's talk about it. So you guys should have already talked about this in your classes before, but when we multiply numbers, so let's give an example. If we have 3 times 5, so we're doing whole numbers. If we have 3 times 5, what is this asking us to do? Well, it's asking us to have 3 5 times, right? So multiplication is repeated addition. Everyone say repeated addition. This is something this is a little bit of review. So repeated addition would technically be 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, right? So we have 3 repeated 5 times, right? Because that's what this equation is telling us. 3 times 5. And we can add these up, right? 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, which would be 15. Okay? So now that we know that multiplication is repeated addition, let's look at a fraction problem where we would be multiplying. 1/3 times 2. So everyone can write this down on a sheet of paper, whatever you want to do. So if we have 1/3 times 2, what is this equation asking us to do? Right, it's asking us what is 1/3 2 times. So we can write it out as 1/3 plus 1/3, right? Because that's really what it's asking us to do here. But I have a trick. We can write 1/3 times 2 over 1. But why did I put the 1 under the 2? Why am I putting 2 over 1? Because 2 is a whole number, but now it looks like a fraction. What does this mean? So let's talk about that for a second. Okay, so I don't want you to get confused here when I put the 2 over the 1, because technically, even though we are multiplying a fraction by a whole number, we are still multiplying by a fraction. And this shows us here when we put 2 over 1, this line really means division. So 2 divided by 1, any number over 1 is always itself. So 2 over 1 is still 2. So now let's work it out. We're going to do 1 times 2, which is 2, and 3 times 1, which is 3. So our answer here is 2/3. So all we have to do is multiply across. Let's try another one. 1/4 times 5. So a little bit bigger. So let's think through our steps. What's the first thing that we can do? That's right. Let's put 5 over 1. So we keep the 1/4. So I'm going to have 1/4 times 5 over 1. Well, now what do? What's our next step? Multiply straight across. 1 times 5 is 5. 4 times 1 is 4. But I want everyone to look at this fraction. Everyone look at this fraction. It's improper. So now we have to change it, right? We can't keep it like this. We have to change it. When our numerator is bigger than our denominator, it is an improper fraction, okay? So let's change it now. So we're trying to see how many times 4 can go into 5. Okay, so here we want to see how many times 4 can go into 5. We know that 4 can only go into 5 one time. When we subtract this, we get 1. So we know our answer is 1 with remainder 1. And this was our original fraction that we were changing. Does our denominator change? No, it does not. So our new number 5/4, we changed it into 1 and 1/4. Okay, so we know that our answer for 1/4 times 5 wholes is 1 1/4. Okay, I want us to look at this multiplication again. Let's look at 1/4 times 5 again. So at the beginning of the video, I explained how 1/4 times 5 is just like we're multiplying whole numbers, right? So we're doing repeated addition. So this can also mean 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4, right? So we have 5 1/4 that we are adding together, multiplying by 5. We can also represent this in a model, right? So if I were to draw a model to represent this, I would have 1/4, 1/4, another 1/4, another 1/4, and another 1/4. So how many fourths do we have in total here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 1/4, right? 1/4 times 5. So we can see here, if I were to add all of the shaded parts up, because these are the parts we have, right? The shaded parts tells us how the pieces that we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 fourths, right? Which this takes us right back to where we were when we were up here. When we changed, remember, put the 1, multiply across, 5 fourths, right? But then we had to change this fraction to get our mixed number, which was 1 1/4. So I just wanted you guys to see that we can also use a model to show our multiplication here that's going on. All right, thank you guys for sticking through. I know this video was a little bit longer than usual, but I just know that we had some review that we needed to cover since it has been a few days already that we've been out of school. I want you guys to keep trucking along. Ask me questions in the comments below if you need any kind of help. Thanks for watching.